He took her credit card, threw it on the floor, and stepped on it like garbage. "Get your broke ass out of my hotel," he said. But what this hotel manager didn't know, what he was about to find out in the most humiliating way possible, would end his career in less than 15 minutes. This is a true story about judgment, dignity, and the moment everything changed. Stay with me, because what happens next is absolutely insane. Let me tell you a story that'll make you think twice about judging people by what they're wearing. This is a true story about dignity, about cruelty, and about what happens when someone pushes the wrong person too far. It all started on a cold Tuesday night in Detroit, Michigan. The time was 11:47 p.m. Most people were already asleep, but not Olivia Carter. No, Olivia was wide awake, exhausted beyond measure, but determined to get through one more night. Picture this. A woman in her late 30s walks through the automatic doors of the Royal Crown Hotel. The place is stunning. All marble floors, crystal chandeliers casting soft golden light across the lobby, expensive artwork on the walls. The kind of place where a single night costs more than most people's monthly rent. The kind of place that screams luxury from every corner. But Olivia, she didn't look like she belonged there. At least, that's what some people would think. She was wearing worn-out jeans with a small tear at the knee, a white button-down shirt that had seen better days, wrinkled from traveling, old Converse sneakers, the classic ones that cost maybe $40. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of too many sleepless nights. She carried a laptop bag over her shoulder and pulled a small rolling suitcase behind her. She looked tired. She looked ordinary. She looked like someone who had just finished a very long day. And she had. But there was something else too. In her eyes, if you looked closely, you'd see determination. You'd see strength. You'd see someone who was carrying the weight of something important. Because here's what nobody in that lobby knew. Olivia had exactly 13 minutes to get to her room and set up for the most important video call of her entire career. At midnight, at 12 a.m. exactly, she was scheduled for a video conference with Higashi Industries in Tokyo, Japan. This wasn't just any call. This was the final negotiation for a $200 million partnership deal. Her company had spent 6 months, half a year working toward this moment. 6 months of meetings, 6 months of proposals, 6 months of building trust across 2 continents and 2 completely different business cultures. And it all came down to tonight, to this one call, in 13 minutes. So when Olivia walked up to that gleaming reception desk, she wasn't thinking about how she looked. She wasn't worried about fashion or first impressions. She was thinking about business, about her team, about not letting them down. Behind the counter stood a man named Derek, the night manager. Tall guy, maybe 6 feet, with slicked back hair that probably took him 15 minutes to style every morning. He wore a crisp black suit with a name tag that said Derek Barnes, Night Manager, in gold letters. And he had this expression on his face. You know the one, that look of someone who thinks they're more important than they actually are, that confidence that comes from spending years around wealthy people and somehow believing that some of that wealth and status has rubbed off on them. Derek saw Olivia approach. His eyes traveled from her sneakers up to her tired face, and something shifted in his expression. His lips curled just slightly, not quite a smile, more like disgust. Olivia reached into her wallet and pulled out a card. Not just any card, a black Centurion card. You know what that is? It's one of those exclusive credit cards that most people will never even hold in their lifetime. The kind that has no spending limit, the kind you can't just apply for, you have to be invited. The kind that tells you this person has serious money. She placed it gently on the marble counter. "Good evening," she said, her voice calm despite her exhaustion. "I have a reservation. Olivia Carter, Penthouse Suite." Derek picked up the card, turned it over in his hands, examined it like he was some kind of expert. His eyes narrowed. And then something happened that nobody expected. he let the card fall from his fingers. It clattered on the marble floor with a sharp, echoing sound. And then, I kid you not, Derek lifted his expensive leather shoe and stepped on it, ground his heel into that card like he was crushing a cigarette. The sound of his shoe scraping against the floor seemed to echo through the entire lobby. "Get your broke ass out of my hotel," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "before I call the cops." The words hung in the air like poison. Olivia stood there frozen, not because she was scared, not because she was intimidated, but because she literally could not believe what had just happened. This was 2024, and she was being treated like this in a professional establishment? Behind Derek was a young receptionist named Brittany Wells, early 20s, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing too much makeup and a smile that disappeared the moment she looked at Olivia. Brittany actually laughed, a short, cruel little snort. "That card probably came from a pawn shop," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, loud enough to make sure it cut deep. Now let me pause here and tell you something about Olivia Carter. She's not the type to lose her temper. She's not the type to yell or make a scene. She'd built her career on staying calm under pressure, on thinking clearly when everyone else was panicking. So she took a breath, bent down, picked up her card from the floor, slipped it back into her wallet. Then she pulled out her phone, found her email confirmation, and slid the phone across the counter toward Derek. "My name is Olivia Carter," she repeated, her voice steady as a rock. "I reserved the penthouse suite for tonight. You can confirm that in your system." Derek glanced at the phone like it was trash. Didn't even pick it up. "Oh, sure," he said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "And I'm the President of the United States. Lady, listen to me very carefully. This is a 5-star property. A 5-star property. Do you understand what that means? We host real executives here, real business people, CEOs, athletes, celebrities, people who don't show up looking like they just finished a shift at a gas station." By now, other people in the lobby had started to notice. There were maybe 6 or 7 guests scattered around, some sitting in the plush leather chairs, some waiting for elevators, some just passing through. They were all watching now. Some of them pretending not to, but you could see their eyes flicking over, their conversations stopping mid-sentence. Among them was a woman named Jasmine Kim, Korean-American, mid-20s, sitting in one of the chairs near the lobby entrance. She had her phone out, had been scrolling through Instagram, but now she was paying attention, really paying attention. And she did something that would change everything. She opened her Instagram app, switched to the camera, and hit the button that said, "Go Live." The red recording dot appeared on her screen. At first, she had maybe 20 viewers. Her friends, her followers, people scrolling through their feeds at nearly midnight. But that number started climbing. 30, 50, 100. The comments were coming in fast now. Is this really happening? Who treats a guest like this?
This is disgusting. She's way too calm for someone being humiliated. Someone needs to help her. And then someone typed it, the hashtag that would start spreading across social media like wildfire. Hashtag Royal Crown Racism. That's when Marcus Lee arrived. Marcus was the head of hotel security, a man in his mid-40s with dark skin, short cropped hair going gray at the temples, and the kind of face that had seen a lot of life. He wore the standard security uniform, but the way he carried himself was different from Derek and Patricia. There was no arrogance there, no showmanship, just professionalism. He'd been alerted by another guest about a situation at the front desk. As he approached, his eyes took in the scene. Olivia standing there with perfect posture, Derek and Patricia on the other side of the counter with their arms crossed, Brittany smirking in the background. And he knew, immediately, that something was very wrong here. "What's going on?" Marcus asked, his voice calm but authoritative. "Just a trespasser. I'm handling it." Marcus looked at Olivia, really looked at her, and he saw what the others had missed. The intelligence in her eyes, the expensive laptop bag despite the casual clothes, and the way she held herself like someone who was used to being listened to. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "is there a problem?" And that's when Olivia did something unexpected. She looked directly at Marcus and said, in that same calm voice, "Mr. Lee, before you do anything, I suggest you read your employee handbook. Section 14.3, the part about discrimination and immediate termination for racial or appearance-based misconduct." The air in the lobby changed. It was subtle, but you could feel it. Because how would a random guest know about Section 14.3 of the employee handbook? How would they know Marcus's name when he hadn't introduced himself? Derek's confidence flickered for just a second, but then he recovered, puffing up his chest. "Lady, stop acting like you know how hotels work," he snapped. But behind them, things were happening that none of them realized. Jasmine's live stream had exploded. 5,000 viewers now. The hashtag Royal Crown Racism was starting to trend. People were sharing it, tagging friends, recording the stream on their own devices. The internet was watching, and the internet was angry. In corporate offices across the country, alert systems were pinging. Social media monitoring software was flagging the hashtag. Someone, in Royal Crown's headquarters, probably just one person at first, working the late shift monitoring brand mentions, saw the notifications, saw the live stream, saw what was happening in their Detroit location. And they started making phone calls. Patricia's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and her face went pale. It was a text from corporate headquarters. "We're seeing social media activity about discrimination at the Detroit location. What's going on? Respond immediately." Her hand trembled slightly as she read it, but Derek didn't notice. He was too busy continuing his performance, too lost in his own sense of power. "You want the truth?" he said to Olivia, stepping closer to the counter, leaning over it. "The truth is that people like you ruin the reputation of hotels like this. You come in here, try to act like you belong, and then what? You probably can't even afford the minibar." Olivia's jaw tightened, just slightly, just for a moment. She looked at her watch. It was 11:54 p.m. 6 minutes until her call. 6 minutes until the biggest business moment of her life. And she was standing here, being humiliated, being insulted, being treated like she was less than human, because of how she looked, because of assumptions, because of judgment. And in that moment, Olivia Carter made a decision. She'd had enough. Not just of tonight, of it all. Of every complaint that had crossed her desk, of every story she had heard, of every time someone had been judged, dismissed, degraded. She reached into her laptop bag slowly, deliberately, pulled out a folder. A simple manila folder, but the way she held it, you could tell it was important. She placed it on the marble counter. Opened it. Inside were papers, documents, the kind with headers and footers and official-looking logos. Quarterly reports, performance metrics, financial data. The kind of documents that no regular guest should ever have access to. Derek's eyes flickered to the papers. His confidence wavered just slightly. Then Olivia reached back into her bag and pulled out one more thing. A business card. Sleek, expensive, black with white text. She placed it on the counter, right next to the open folder. The card read, Olivia Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Global Holdings, Majority Shareholder, Royal Crown Hospitality Group. For a moment, nobody moved. The lobby was completely silent except for the soft classical music playing through the hidden speakers. Derek stared at the card. Patricia stared at the card. Brittany stared at the card. Marcus stared at Olivia, and something like recognition, mixed with shock, crossed his face. On the Jasmine live stream, the viewer count hit 10,000. The comments were exploding. People were calling for justice, for accountability, for heads to roll. And in that moment, standing in that marble lobby, under those crystal chandeliers, Derek Barnes realized something that would haunt him for the rest of his career. He had just destroyed his entire life because he judged someone by their shoes. You know that feeling when you realize you've made a terrible mistake? When your stomach drops and your heart starts racing and you wish you could turn back time by just 5 minutes? Multiply that feeling by 1,000. That's what Derek Barnes was experiencing right now. The business cards sat on the marble counter like evidence at a crime scene. Those 3 lines of text that changed everything.
Olivia Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Global Holdings, Majority Shareholder, Royal Crown Hospitality Group. Derek's face had gone from its usual confident pink to a sickly gray color, the kind of gray that people turn when they're about to pass out. His hands were trembling, actually trembling. You could see them shaking as they hovered uselessly above the counter. Patricia Lane, the assistant manager, who had been so quick to call Olivia a scammer, had taken 3 steps backward. Her expensive navy suit suddenly looked like a costume. Her phone was still in her hand, that message from corporate still glowing on the screen. And now she understood why they were asking. Oh, she understood perfectly. Brittany Wells, the young receptionist who had laughed and made that comment about pawn shops, had both hands covering her mouth. Her eyes were wide with horror. 22 years old, probably still living with roommates, working this job to pay off student loans, and in the span of 5 minutes, she just potentially destroyed her entire future. But here's the thing that really gets me about this moment, the thing that makes this story so powerful. Olivia Carter wasn't yelling. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't cursing them out or making threats. She was just standing there, calm as a still lake before a storm, letting the truth speak for itself. Because sometimes the truth is the most powerful weapon you can wield. Marcus Lee, the security head who had arrived just minutes earlier, stood to the side. His expression was unreadable, but if you looked closely, you could see understanding dawning in his eyes. He was replaying every interaction in his mind, the way Derek had treated this woman, the mockery, the cruelty. And he was realizing that he'd just witnessed something that would be talked about for years. On Jasmine Kim's live stream, the comments were absolutely exploding. "She owns the hotel! Oh my God! Derek is done! He's so done! This is the best plot twist I've ever seen in real life! I'm crying! She stayed so calm through all of that! Justice is coming!" The viewer count had hit 15,000. Then 20,000. The video was being shared across Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. People were screen recording it and posting it everywhere. Hashtag Royal Crown Racism was trending nationally now. In corporate offices, phones were ringing off the hook. Derek finally found his voice. It came out as a whisper, then grew louder, more desperate. "Miss Carter, I didn't know—" Miss Carter raised one hand, just lifted it slightly. A small gesture, but it was enough. Derek stopped talking immediately, his mouth snapping shut like a trap. "You didn't know," Olivia repeated, her voice soft but carrying through the silent lobby. "That's interesting, Mr. Barnes, because that's exactly the problem, isn't it? You didn't know who I was, and because you didn't know, you felt entitled to treat me like garbage." She let that hang in the air for a moment. "But here's what I want you to understand. Here's the lesson that you're about to learn, and trust me, you'll never forget it." I looked at each of them in turn, Derek, Patricia, Brittany. It shouldn't have mattered who I was. I could have been anyone. I could have been a teacher, a nurse, a single mother working 2 jobs. I could have been someone who saved for a year to afford one night in a nice hotel. And I should have been treated with the same dignity and respect that you'd give to anyone else. Patricia was crying now, actual tears running down her face, mascara starting to smudge. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." But Olivia wasn't finished. "Mr. Lee," she said, turning to Marcus, "could you please bring up the latest internal audit report? Display it on the lobby screen." Marcus hesitated for just a second. This was highly irregular. These reports were confidential, meant only for management eyes. But then again,
Olivia Carter was the owner. She could do whatever she wanted. He pulled out his phone, logged into the hotel system with his security credentials, and within 30 seconds, the massive screen on the lobby wall, the one that usually displayed artistic photos of the hotel and advertisements for the restaurant, flickered to life with something else entirely. Data, numbers, charts, all color-coded in reds and oranges that screamed warning. "Let me walk you through what you're looking at," Olivia said. And now she wasn't talking just to the staff. She was talking to the guests who had gathered, to Jasmine's 25,000 live stream viewers, to everyone. "This is the Detroit Royal Crown's performance over the last 6 months." She pointed to the first section. Guest satisfaction scores, the industry standard for a 5-star hotel, is at least 4.5 out of 5. Our other properties average 4.7. This location, 2.3 out of 5 stars. That's worse than most budget motels. Derek's face somehow got even paler. "Staff turnover rate," Olivia continued, pointing to another horrifying number. "Normal for the hospitality industry is about 30% annually. This location, 89%. That means nearly 9 out of every 10 employees quit within a year. Do you know what that tells me? It tells me there's something toxic about the culture here, something broken." She moved to the next section, and this one made everyone in the lobby lean forward. Formal complaints. In the last 3 months alone, this location has received 23 formal complaints specifically naming Derek Barnes for discriminatory behavior, rudeness, or inappropriate treatment of guests. 23. The number seemed to echo through the lobby. "And look at this," Olivia said, her finger moving to the financial section. "Revenue declining month over month, down 18% compared to this time last year. While every other Royal Crown location is growing, this one is dying. And you know why?" Nobody answered. They didn't need to. They all knew why. "Because word gets around. Because people talk. Because in 2024, when you treat someone badly, they don't just leave quietly anymore. They post reviews. They tell their friends. They share their stories. And slowly, your reputation crumbles." Olivia turned back to Derek and Patricia. Brittany was still standing there, frozen like a statue, tears streaming down her face. "Here's your options," Olivia said, and her voice had become businesslike now. Professional, the voice of a CEO who had made hard decisions before. "Option 1, you can resign quietly. I'll accept your resignation effective immediately. You'll receive 2 weeks of severance pay, and we'll agree to tell future employers that you left for personal reasons. No details about tonight will appear in your official employment records." Derek and Patricia exchanged glances. They were calculating, desperate.
Option 2, Olivia continued. "You can be terminated for cause. That goes on your record. Future employers will know you were fired for discrimination and misconduct. You'll have to explain this story in every job interview for the rest of your career." The weight of that option settled on them like a lead blanket. Or option 3, we can launch a full corporate investigation. Every complaint will be reviewed. Every incident will be documented. Everything will become part of public record. And then we'll let the legal system and the court of public opinion decide what happens to you. On the live stream, people were choosing sides. "Give them option 3. They deserve it." At least she's giving them a choice, which is more mercy than they showed her. Option 1 is too easy. Make them face consequences. But Olivia was watching them carefully, watching the fear in their eyes, the desperation, and maybe, just maybe, seeing a tiny flicker of genuine regret. Derek spoke first, his voice barely audible. I'll resign. I'll resign right now." Patricia nodded frantically. "Me too. Please, I'll resign." "Fine," Olivia said. She pulled 2 pieces of paper from her folder. She'd come prepared for this, you understand. She'd known exactly how this might go. "Sign these. Your resignations are effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. You have 15 minutes. They signed. Their hands were shaking so badly that the signatures were barely legible. But they signed. Marcus called for 2 other security officers over his radio. Within minutes, Derek Barnes and Patricia Lane were being walked toward the back offices, their careers at Royal Crown ending in the most humiliating way possible. But then Olivia did something that surprised everyone. She turned to Brittany Wells, the young receptionist who was still crying quietly, mascara running down her cheeks in dark rivers. "You made a mistake," Olivia said, and her voice was different now, softer, almost gentle. "A terrible mistake. Do you understand what your words did to me tonight?" Brittany nodded, unable to speak through her tears. "Do you understand that when you mock someone, when you join in on cruelty, you're not just being mean. You're taking away their dignity. You're making them feel less than human. Do you understand that?" "Yes," Brittany whispered. "Yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't have an excuse. I didn't think. I didn't think about how it would feel." "No, you didn't think. But here's the question that matters now. Will you think next time?" Brittany looked up, hope and fear mixed in her red-rimmed eyes. "Yes, I swear I will never, ever do anything like that again. I promise you." Olivia studied her for a long moment. The entire lobby held its breath. Even the live-stream viewers seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen. "I'm giving you another chance," Olivia finally said. "One chance. Because I believe people can learn. I believe people can change. But understand this clearly. If you ever, and I mean ever, treat another guest, another employee, another human being the way you treated me tonight, not only will you lose your job, but I will make sure every hotel, every business, every employer knows exactly why." "I understand," Brittany said, and you could hear the relief in her voice. Thank you so much. I won't let you down." "See that you don't," Olivia said. Then she turned to Marcus. Marcus Lee had been standing there the whole time, watching, observing, and when Olivia's eyes met his, he stood a little straighter. "Mr. Lee," Olivia said, "you arrived at a situation that was already in progress. You could have simply followed what your superiors were doing. But I saw something in your eyes. You questioned it. You sensed something was wrong. That matters. That matters more than you know." Marcus nodded slowly. "Ma'am, I've been in security for 23 years. You develop an instinct, and my instinct was telling me this wasn't right." "Exactly," Olivia said. "So here's what's going to happen. Effective immediately, you're promoted to interim general manager of this location. You'll oversee the complete restructuring of this hotel." Marcus's eyes widened. "Ma'am, I'm honored, but I don't have experience in hotel management." "You have something better," Olivia interrupted. "You have integrity, you have good judgment, and you have the respect of the staff. The management skills we can teach. The character you already have." She paused. "Do you accept?" Marcus smiled, a real genuine smile. "Yes, ma'am, I accept." The live stream erupted in celebration. Jasmine was grinning as she held her phone steady, capturing every moment. The viewer count had hit 35,000. "Good," Olivia said. She checked her watch. It was 12:03 a.m. She'd missed her midnight call, the $200 million deal with Higashi Industries, the thing she'd been so desperate to make on time. But you know what? She'd make that call in the morning. She'd explain what happened. And something told her they'd understand. Because some things are more important than business deals. Some things are worth being late for. "Now then, I'm going to my room. I have work to do tonight." Because here's what nobody understood yet. Olivia Carter wasn't going to sleep. She was going to work. All night if necessary. She took the elevator to the penthouse suite. It was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Detroit skyline, a king-bed bed with luxury linens, a marble bathroom bigger than most studio apartments.
But Olivia didn't admire any of it. She went straight to the desk, opened her laptop, and got to work. For the next 6 hours, she wrote, she created, she planned. She called it the Guest Dignity Initiative. 12 specific points, 12 concrete actions that would transform not just the Royal Crown Detroit, but every Royal Crown property in the world. Point 1. Real-time discrimination reporting. Any guest could scan a QR code in their room and report an incident immediately. It would go straight to corporate oversight, bypassing local management entirely. Point 2. Mandatory empathy training. Not the boring, check-the-box kind, real training. Role-playing exercises, putting employees in the shoes of people who are different from them. Point 3. External oversight. Partner with civil rights organizations who would conduct random audits and have the authority to recommend changes. Point 4. Anonymous whistleblower protection for both staff and guests. And on, 12 detailed, specific, and forcible policies.
But she didn't stop there. She also made a phone call. At 3:47 a.m., she called Kendra Williams, one of the most respected hospitality directors in the country. Kendra was a black woman who had spent 30 years building her reputation in the industry, someone who understood excellence and dignity in equal measure. "I need you in Detroit," Olivia told her. "I need you to rebuild this hotel from the ground up. I need you to create a culture where what happened tonight could never, ever happen again." Kendra accepted. By sunrise, the transformation had begun. Now, I wish I could tell you that change happened overnight. I wish I could say that one speech and one set of policies fixed everything instantly. But that's not how real life works, is it? Real change takes time. It takes effort. It takes people actually doing the work. But 3 months later, 90 days of hard work, of training, of holding people accountable, of building something better, the results spoke for themselves. The Royal Crown Detroit's guest satisfaction rating hit 4.6 stars, the highest in the hotel's history. Revenue was up 34%. Staff turnover dropped to 22%, better than the industry average. And the discrimination complaints? 0. Not a single one. Brittany Wells had been promoted to floor supervisor. She was known throughout the hotel for her kindness, her patience, her genuine care for every single guest. She'd learned her lesson, and she'd learned it well. Marcus Lee was officially named general manager and was overseeing inclusion programs across all Royal Crown properties in Michigan. He'd become a leader not just in security, but in creating cultures of respect. The Guest Dignity Initiative had been rolled out to all 847 Royal Crown hotels worldwide. Other hotel chains were studying it. Harvard Business School contacted Olivia about creating a case study. The story went viral, of course. That live stream video got over 40 million views across all platforms. News outlets covered it. It became a conversation about bias, about assumptions, about the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of how they look. But you want to know the most important part of this story? The part that really matters? 6 weeks after that night, a woman named Jennifer Rodriguez checked in to the Royal Crown Detroit. She was a pediatric nurse who had been working double shifts for months. She'd saved up enough for one night, just one night, in a nice hotel as a treat to herself. She was exhausted, wearing scrubs and sneakers, looking exactly like someone who just finished a 12-hour shift at the hospital. When she walked up to that front desk, the person who greeted her was Brittany Wells. "Welcome to Royal Crown Detroit," Brittany said with a genuine smile. "We're so glad you're here. How can I make your stay perfect?" No judgment, no mockery, just warmth and respect. Jennifer later posted a review.
I've never felt so welcomed at a luxury hotel. From the moment I arrived, I was treated like I mattered. 5 stars. That's what real change looks like. It's not about one dramatic moment. It's about every moment after that. Every interaction. Every choice to do better. 2 months after that night, Olivia Carter did an interview with a business magazine. The reporter asked her what motivated her to handle the situation the way she did. Her answer was simple, but it stuck with everyone who heard it. Discrimination doesn't end because you issue statements. It doesn't end because you post the right hashtags or make promises. It ends when you enforce values, when you hold people accountable, when you build systems that make respect the default, not the exception. She paused, then added, "That night, I didn't need an apology from Derek Barnes. Apologies are just words, and words are cheap. What I needed, what everyone needs, is change. Real, measurable, lasting change. And that's exactly what we built." From that day forward, the Royal Crown hotels became known for something beyond luxury, beyond elegant rooms and fine dining and crystal chandeliers. They became known for dignity. Every employee wore a small pin on their uniform. It was simple, just 3 words. Every guest matters. And they meant it. They proved it every single day. Because here's the truth this story teaches us. You never know who you're really talking to. That person in worn-out jeans might be the CEO. That woman in scrubs might be the doctor who will save your life someday. That man with the accent might be a brilliant professor. That teenager with the skateboard might be a future world leader. But here's even an important truth. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if someone is powerful or wealthy or famous or important. Every human being deserves respect. Every person deserves dignity. Every individual matters, not because of what they own or what they do or how they look, but because they're human. That's the lesson Derek Barnes learned too late. That's the lesson Patricia Lane learned when her career ended in that lobby. And it's a lesson that Brittany Wells learned in time to save hers. And it's a lesson all of us need to remember every single day. Because the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their appearance, by their clothes, by their accent, by anything superficial, remember this story. Remember Olivia Carter standing in that lobby, being crushed under the weight of cruelty, staying calm and dignified because she knew her worth even when others couldn't see it. Remember that every person you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying burdens you can't see, deserving of kindness you might be the only one to give them that day. Olivia Carter proved something powerful that night in Detroit. She proved that one person's courage, backed by real authority and genuine heart, can turn injustice into transformation, can turn a moment of cruelty into a movement of change. But more than that, she proved that standing up for what is right, even when you're exhausted, even when you're being humiliated, even when it would be easier to walk away, that standing up matters. It matters more than business deals, more than convenience, more than comfort. It matters because we're all human, and humanity deserves to be protected, defended, celebrated. So the next time you see someone being treated poorly, speak up. The next time you're tempted to judge, choose compassion instead. The next time you have power, use it to lift others up. Because that's how we change the world, not with grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but with small acts of courage and kindness, repeated over and over until they become who we are. That's the real story of Olivia Carter and the Royal Crown Hotel. Not just about one night of justice, but about every night after that. About building something better. About proving that change is possible when people care enough to fight for it. And that's a story worth remembering. Thank you for listening to this story. If it moved you, share it.
If it taught you something, live it. And if it inspired you, pass it on. Because stories like this remind us who we want to be and who we can become.